Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, Laurie and Michael. It's good to see you guys. Yay.
Thank you, August.
Yeah, thank you for being here to talk to me about Extraordinary Lovers. I'm excited about this project because a lot of the men and women that I work with have been often in marriages for a really long time. And there's a lot of love and companionship, and people have raised kids together. And then, the intimacy starts to fall away. And I'm really committed to supporting people and accessing their heart with each other and kind of getting through some of the barriers that just naturally seem to happen over time for all human beings. So I'm really just excited that you're doing what you're doing, and I want to learn more about it. But before we kind of jump into that, I'd love to know a little bit about the two of you for my people who may not know who you are.
Hey, Michael's going to introduce me. He likes to do it.
I like to introduce her, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, the woman sitting to my right is very accomplished in every possible way you could think. She's an author. She's a sought-out speaker. She goes around the world teaching Tantra and in transformational spaces. She has produced, directed, and starred in 3 of her own films that have won like awards all over in festivals and all this other stuff. She's amazing, and she is an amazing extraordinary lover. She is hot to trot all day long. This is my beloved Laurie Handlers.
Aw, yay! Thank you.
Oh, that's so sweet. You didn't mention about my podcast.
Oh, and her podcast. She's had a
It's never enough. It's never enough.
She's in the middle of 2 other books right now, so yeah, there's more coming. I mean, never stopping. So yeah, she's amazing.
And this is my partner and beloved Michael Gibson, and he is a former network engineer and turned sex geek, and he is a co-founder with me of the Academy for Men, because I once told him that I didn't think men knew how to touch women. They just don't know how to. Even tantric men, they know how to eye gaze and breathe and make sound, but they don't really know how to like handle a body. So Michael took that seriously and started something called the Academy for Men. And so anyway, that's Michael Gibson. Now we do Extraordinary Lovers, and he actually developed the curriculum for Extraordinary Lovers, but he says that I inspired it and caused it to happen. So
I bet. Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yay.
Yeah.
So, tell me how, so did you come up with the idea for Extraordinary Lovers, Michael? Was it inspired by your relationship with Laurie? Tell me about that.
Absolutely. I mean, you're dead on right there. So part of it came from the Academy for Men, because what I was teaching men was, how to really develop skills. I have a course called Just Add Skill. And the skills that I found that were needed, that women were actually telling me. I was doing surveys and finding out, what do women really want? How do we interact with them in ways that has them feel like they're being fulfilled, satiated sexually and emotionally and all the rest.
And adored.
And adored. Yeah, well, like my thing is, there's a goddess in every woman, right? My goal here is to not only meet as many as I can, but also to share with men how to really bring a safe space so that women can enter into that space, that archetype for themselves, and really get to know who they are as a goddess. Anyway, so yeah, juicy stuff. So from that, I was teaching men, and what I realized was, this stuff really needs to be both men and women. This needs to be with couples, because some of this information was just like really, really pertinent for men to learn, but then women on the other side weren't getting the information. So the men were going to meet with their women and do whatever, and it just wasn't locking in. And so beyond that, Laurie and I have this amazing experience of love and appreciation, of being met, of having sovereignty in our own lives and the ability to be who we are, and not to dilute into a relationship, but rather to really solidly be who we are and bring everything we are to our relating to each other.
And also to always return to love.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how we relate to each other is, no matter what, we'll return to love. And she's a sovereign being, I'm a sovereign being. And so we kind of gave away, we're going to give this away, but we gave up relationships. We sank the ship. When we first got started here, we decided we're not going to do it that way. We're going to relate with each other. As Laurie says,
A verb.
It's a verb. To relate.
Relate.
Yeah.
We're going to keep relating, and we're not going to build a ship around the relating. So we
Got it. Relationship. It took me a minute. Got it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so we decided to sink the ship because we find that a lot of people stay together and they have this thing. They dig a moat around it. They build a fence around it. They keep other people out of it, and then it disintegrates.
Mm-hmm.
As best as they tried, either once they have children, it changes, or once the children leave, it changes. They become empty nesters, and there's nothing left between them, and they've neutralized their chemistry, and they've become so best friends that there's no polarity, there's no spark, there's no juice, and they love each other. They don't necessarily want to leave, but there's nothing happening that causes them to get aroused.
Right.
So we decided not to do that. We said, let's not make a ship. Let's just keep relating. And it's, you could say it's semantics, but it is a whole way. You understand way of being.
Yeah.
Understand what that means? It's a way of being. So our way of being is, let's not be in that thing. Let's not have a thing to defend. Let's just keep opening up communication over and over and over again. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
So that is a big part of how this course came to be, was that we gave that ship up and we decided that we were going to relate to each other. And all of the tools that we use inside of that is really the program that we created. We're just sharing it all. And what's really amazing is that people can relate and they resonate really deeply with what it is that we're sharing, and their hearts begin to like open up. We see transformation happening. But it's really cool because it's like an experience instead of like going into a training or a workshop. It's more of an experience. Anyway, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we've had people who just came together, like people who just met and they want to get off to the right foot, like that way. They don't want to like get stuck and then invest an amount of time and then find out it didn't work. And then we've had people who are the couple that takes the cake is they've been married for 59 years and they came to us and we cracked something. We cracked a code in their way of relating that opened up so much sexuality with each other. And they've been together forever and they've only been with each other. They've never been with anyone else. And they had to every time when they left us, this is when we were doing a live course. When they left us, they had to get a motel every so 100 miles or so when they were driving away. Yeah.
And if they've been married 59 years, they're not spring chickens.
No, they're not.
Oh.
But they're beautiful and they're hilarious.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
And they're wonderful together. And they really are in the midst of like this extraordinary experience of love now.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to kind of like speak about that a little bit, because it's one thing, when you're coming into a new relationship, right, to create foundational agreements and practices to keep it clean, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But I think with a lot of the couples or men and women that I work with, you've got years perhaps of just habitual patterning and not speaking and, slowly kind of turning away from each other. And that's a really kind of different, it's like, how do you even start? Because I imagine that some, especially some of the men that I work with, their wives may not really feel like it's even worth exploring because it's become so numb.
Yeah, we work with people like that.
That's the primary.
The thing we focus on actually the first focus that we focus on is self-love. So if we had a couple like that, we'd focus on the self-love for sure first. And they'd have to come back to a place in themselves where they love themselves enough to then venture into the next chapter, which is love of another. Right. And even if they came together out of love, but it slowly trickled away, you know, we can actually restore that. We can help people restore that in each other, but it has to come first from self-love.
And what does that look like? Because, you know, we hear there's a lot of words kind of in the conscious spirituality and sexuality world that are kind of like, they get thrown around a lot, like self-love. What does that mean? You know, especially for someone who's not in this field, who's just like has a regular job in corporate America and isn't familiar with that. What does that mean on a practical level?
So I'll give you a couple of examples
Yeah.
of practices that we help put in place.
Okay.
Because self-love is a practice, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, I mean, this is just the simplest way to say it. And that is that when you love yourself or anything that you do, if you give it an intention. So for instance, if I say, you know, I work out every day. Well, why do you work out? Because I want to look good. Well, what if you shifted that from, I work out every day because I love myself? Your intention shifts. The why you're doing it shifts. Of course, you're going to look good if you do it, but really you do it because you love yourself. You want to live a long, healthy life, right? So anything that you put in front of that, because I love because I love myself,
Right.
anything you put in front of that, anything you put in front of that becomes a practice of self-love. You know, I self-pleasure because I love myself, right? I pet my dog or my cat. I make love to my beloved. I hold my beloved and I give her that because I love myself, because that oxytocin is necessary for me. So loving yourself is really a practice. And it's a practice of making sure that you have enough of the hormone oxytocin in your system that you're feeling love. Because I say it all the time. You cannot experience love without it. It just doesn't exist. Okay, it's not an ethereal thing out there. Sure, it feels that way. That's an experience you have. But the reality is if you don't have oxytocin in your system, honey, you're not feeling love.
Interesting. Okay. So it's not just a psychological tweaking and affirmations. You're actually working with the chemistry of the body.
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Oh, damn, I got the bell.
Yeah.
You got the bell.
Yeah, that's really great. So it's like, even if you're not feeling great about yourself and there is, you know, there's stuff that, you know, maybe you're experiencing that you wouldn't necessarily feel love for, you can work with the chemistry, bring in the chemicals, and then you feel different, and then maybe you can take different actions to move differently.
That's right.
Yes.
That's
right. Yeah, that's right. And you know, we feel one of the definitions that we have of being an extraordinary lover is somebody who purposely creates oxytocin in another. So instead of being right, you know, the idea of, oh, I'm right, no, I'm right, no, I'm right, no, I'm right, no, and then we get into a standoff. No, we actually come back to love by saying, what's the quickest route to producing oxytocin in each other? And that's, you know, that's our stand. We've taken that stand. That's one of the agreements in our relating. It's as soon as we see something's out, we say, you know, something doesn't feel good here. And then we return to love by producing oxytocin in the other. Like Beautiful. We just hug each other or do eye gazing or do breathing or touch. Like right now, Michael's holding my hand. So he's producing oxytocin in me as we're speaking.
Yeah.
Lovely. So so in that, you know, so I know one of the things that I work with my clients on is like sovereignty and honoring the truth in the body, right? And sometimes that looks like, no, that looks like, hey, I'm not happy with how this is going. I want to make a change. I have a boundary that I haven't stated that I need to state, right?
Right.
So how does that, you know, the boundaries that we need to set and claiming our voice and claiming our no, how does that fit in with the intention to create oxytocin? How do you navigate those two spaces?
This is a perfect segue into really what we call fearless communication.
Yes.
And August, it's just that. It's fearless communication. Listen, I'm not afraid to say what I have to say to Laurie, and she's not afraid to say what she has to say to me in her truth, whatever that is, and I'm not afraid to hear it, because I know that we've made this commitment. We're going to return to love, right? Even if it comes as cuss words or whatever, it never does. Trust me, it never comes out that way. But it's like, if there's a frustration or an upset or whatever, she knows she can clearly communicate with me fearlessly, because we're going to return to love. We have, you know, a method to do that now. We actually have the tools to be able to provide for people to say, here's how you get back to that love. Like, it's not hard. It's uncomplicated. If you, it's so not difficult.
And we also think that boundaries create intimacy. So if he was the first person when we met to create a boundary. And, you know, the first one was, he said, I don't do relationships very well. I get diluted. Please don't try to have a relationship with me. And I went, okay. I said, that's not going to happen over here. I'm not going to let you get diluted. I know what those signs are, and I'm not going to let that happen. I'm not going to let you forget who you are. You're going to be sovereign. That's one. This is before he did ISTA or anything like that. So he didn't know exactly what I did or who I was. He kind of
oh boy.
I had a very small group.
Yeah, he didn't have any. So then he set that boundary. He also set the boundary of no sleepovers. Like, he doesn't like to stay in a different bed. He likes to sleep in his own bed, and he doesn't. And he'd say to me, "You have to kick me out if we get intimate, and we're going to have sex together. You have got to send me home." And I said, "Okay, I'll do it." So I would do that.
You want to tell her what you said? I
Tell
want
me.
you to tell her what I told her to say this.
He'd
to
say to me, "Tell me to get the hell out of here, motherfucker." So I would say, "Get out, motherfucker."
Works every time.
And so,
sure.
so then occasionally he would say to me, "Hey, you know, I like to spend the night." And I was like, okay, whatever. You know, like, his boundaries changed because he grew to trust me. So boundaries, when they were respected, they create trust.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't try to manipulate him or convince him out of his boundaries.
She wasn't probing my boundary all the time.
I didn't tell him how stupid his boundaries were. I just said, sure, I respect your boundaries. Great. I don't want anyone moving in on me anyway. Yeah. So that's how that happened. So he started with boundaries. Now, I have a boundary about time. So he didn't always come on time. And I said to him, we need to speak about something. I have a boundary about time. Like, my time is very filled and packed with things, and I need you to come on time. And also, this also begs the question of integrity. Like, are you your word or not? I need to know if I can count on you. Yeah. And so we had that. That was a pretty fearless and fierce communication. And
as Laurie puts it, it was straight, no chaser.
And, you know, he said to me,
oh, got it right. Look, it takes me a minute, man.
And he said, you know, okay, I am my word. I didn't even realize I was being that way. Yeah. And so that changed things. He comes on time now. He does things on the time he says he'll do them on. So boundaries create trust. Mm-hmm. Trust creates intimacy.
That's right.
And so if people don't have any boundaries, they should think again. And we talk about that in the class. Yeah. Like, to be real about that. Boundaries are permeable membranes. They can be changed once you trust. And that is, trust is earned. Trust is not something that just, you know, hi, how are you? I trust you. No. Right.
Sure.
Trust is earned. Trust is earned.
And the big part to answer your question, and you know, it really does come down to fearless communication. Being able to say what it is that your boundaries are, and actually you need to know what they are for yourself. Mm-hmm. And the really weird thing is when we get into these quote unquote relationships, we start finding that we have boundaries we didn't know about. And oftentimes, in order to make sure that you maintain the integrity of the relationship, we don't say anything because we don't want to disturb this, right? But really what's happening is you're relating to each other through this other entity that doesn't really exist, instead of just relating to one another. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's like, I just discovered a boundary. I actually said this to Laurie once. I said, I just discovered a boundary, you know, and it's this, and I'm not gonna, let's take a moment here, because we're not gonna have a conversation beyond this. And so it took a few moments, and then we came back together and talked about what it was. So I didn't even know I had that boundary. And oftentimes you don't, but if you know how to express yourself in a way that's not an attack, it just makes sense. It's simple.
Yeah, it's what I love about it is it sounds like you're bringing clarity to aspects of relating that are happening all the time, but we don't see it. But it's like, you know, bacteria in the body or a virus or something that you don't see it, but it's changing the nature of the organism. And so bringing awareness to what's going on that could be negatively impacting intimacy gives you a facility to have more intimacy.
Bingo.
That's right. That's right. Then we also deal with the things that are normal, like we think that normal communication is ordinary. And so people build up, people don't speak their truth, so they build up resentments. They don't say, I don't like that. I have a boundary about that. Da, da, da. They don't speak it, so then they start making a laundry list, and then they have resentments towards each other. We've been out to lunch with couples who keep score. You know, like they tell us what each other owes each other because they tolerated something. And we look at that, we look at each other and we leave there and we go, did they think we thought that was interesting?
Was that supposed to be funny?
Like we thought that was like, so like, really? That's what you do? Someone once asked us in an interview about fair fighting. What do you think about fair fighting? And we said, why fight? Fighting is ordinary.
Everybody does it.
Everyone does it. It's ordinary.
Yeah.
Why? Why have to do that? Why does it have to come to that?
My position versus your position, and I'm right. No, I'm right. It's that whole, you know, it's a morass of nonsense. At some point, one of you is going to either say, hey, I'm sorry, and apologize. Can you forgive me? I mean, that's the fastest way to getting back to love. Or you're going to fight it out for 4 or 5 days or a month or a lifetime.
And withhold sex and all the things that come with that. And then, you know, I've heard of so many things. I mean, I've you know, I had a friend once whose wife left with the kids and all the furniture. He came home from work and the house, you know, and the house was empty. He still had the house, but there was nothing in there. And I thought, oh my God, what would make it come to that?
Yeah.
Right.
Years and years and years.
Years of resentment.
Resentment.
So we teach people how to navigate the prevention of resistance, resentment, resistance, and revenge. And also I add righteousness, you know, being righteous with each other. Like it doesn't work. I don't need to be right with him. Sometimes I feel like I can't get through. Occasionally, like I'm having a feeling and he's like in another place and he's like, I don't get it. You know, you should just work this out. And then I go, oh no, let me try again.
Yeah.
This is what I'm feeling. You know, we were having a business meeting the other day and I had a lot of feelings about some stuff. And he just said, you're not at all on the same page as me right now, are you? I said, no. He said, should we stop this meeting? I said, yeah. And we stopped the meeting and did emotional release. You know, so anyway, it really comes down to being really he did this survey with about 300 women, and he said, what's the secret to having a level 10 experience on a 1 to 10 scale? When you have a 10 experience, because men said that they had 10 experiences 30% of the time, and women said 2% of the time. Like women said they were not satisfied pretty much with their sexual encounters with men. And Michael realized that men were not getting it right, and they were actually not being communicated with. So he said to women, what is the single most important thing that is needed when in a sexual encounter? And women said, presence. And we think presence is needed to be present for everything.
Yeah.
Presence is a skill that can be taught. We teach it in 4 or 5 different ways. So that it's like mind blowing when they actually get, oh, this is what it means to be present.
Yeah.
I don't have to go on automatic. I can just be present. And then once presence is established, there's so much flying that can take place.
Yeah.
Sure.
It opens up another realm.
It opens up everything.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a lot about what we
including Exquisite Touch. Sorry to.
Yes, tell me about that.
That's fine.
Yeah. I mean,
when you're present, you can touch the person the way they need to be touched, rather than some techniques you learned that you tried.
Right.
Like this is what happened. One day I said to Michael, you know, when I tell a man when we're having sex and I tell a man, that's so good, don't stop. Like, oh my God, that's so good, don't stop, don't stop. Then they immediately changed the thing that they were doing. And I said to him, you did that? He was like, I did that? I went, yeah, you just did that. And you're not the only person I've ever experienced that with. Like, I'll say, that's so great, and they'll change.
Yeah.
So
it's like, why do we do that? And it's like, don't do that. So part of being present is that knowing that when she's saying that's amazing, to keep doing what you're doing exactly the way you're doing it. Don't change anything.
Right, don't speed
just
up.
allow her to experience it just the way she's experiencing it. That feedback is not speed up. That feedback is not telling you to, go harder, whatever. It's just saying, this is really it right here. Just do that. So that's simple. It seems simple. It seems like, guys would be like, yeah, that's simple. And yet we do it all the time.
We had to figure that out. Like, what's going on here? What is change? Why are you changing up? And when I say that in classes, men laugh. They go, "Yeah, I do that."
Yep.
And women laugh and they go, "Yeah, I've experienced that."
It's almost like her encouragement to a woman's encouragement to her man, or a partner's encouragement to a man is like, "You think that's good?
I got something.
Check this out." Like, men automatically do that.
Bless your heart.
They ruin it.
Yeah.
It's ruined.
So I started speaking up because I had a place to fearlessly communicate with him. And I had the audience of him listening to me. And we broke that up.
Yeah.
We created a way to deal with that. We gave it language.
Yeah.
Well, and I think as women, we often, because we are keyed into the heart of our lover, and the last thing we want to do is make him feel bad, So I know for me personally, I've not said things because I'm super sensitive, and I'm like, I'm afraid if I actually ask for what I want, or if I ask for more or less, then he'll take it as a criticism. Yes. And so then I'm sitting with an experience of tolerating a sexual experience, and then I'm not connected because I'm tolerating. But then if I say something, I'm afraid I'm going to push him away, but then not saying it actually creates the disconnect. So it's like a trap.
That's right.
So we take the pin out of the trap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, no more trap.
Yeah.
It's exquisite. It's an exquisite experience of touch, but it's also because you actually have fearless communication.
And we consider seduction to be a team sport. So we have to. So inside of seduction as a team sport, we actually have like the Monday night football replay.
The wrap up, right?
Those four jocks who come on TV and they talk about the game yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, we do that. We talk about the game yesterday, and we talk about what worked, what didn't work. Just like
the sexual encounter yesterday. You recap the next day. Okay.
Yes.
It's a recap. It's just one of the things that we do, and it also represents us to the experience that we either just had or had the night before or something. It's really a cool way to like get the juices going, and sometimes it blossoms into another sexual experience. So
but we make but we make the corrections. We say, what was the best part? What wasn't so good? What could have used some more something?
Yeah. Nice.
So, yeah.
I love that. It's like, I really do get that what you're distinguishing and creating is definitely an upgraded way of relating, because I think that there's this idea in our culture that if you love somebody, it should just happen. And I'm like, that's not fucking true. What should just happen is we suck because we're wounded and we don't know how to do it. And no one's taught us. Like, you don't learn relating. You don't learn emotional intelligence. We don't live in a culture that teaches us how to speak our truth and ask for what we want. So honestly, it's a miracle that anybody freaking stays together. And I just love what you're saying, because it's like a whole toolbox to actually have your love manifest in your relating versus hoping it'll turn out, which I just don't think that's very likely for most of us, because we don't know.
Yes, it's true. We recently sent out an email about Walt Disney and Cinderella and Happily Ever After, and um, we said that Disney should have called us because they're after Happily Ever After, you need 16 hours of training to learn how to be happily ever after. Like,
Sure.
like we don't learn that. We learn algebra and geometry and trigonometry, and like I don't use any of that.
Yeah.
I use this every day. I need this every day, but I don't use a lot of the stuff that I learned in school. And they never taught us because nobody knows. Nobody spent time figuring that stuff out.
Mhm.
So we
That's so
did.
good.
We
Yeah.
did. So we love it. We love turning people onto this. We love helping people troubleshoot. You know, we have people who we've been we work with a couple who are afraid to say what they want to each other, and they're afraid of being disappointed. And at one point, a person lies, and then that ruins everything. Then the woman stays frozen in anger, and like, we help people get out of those freeze states and get into this communication that doesn't have to cost them everything.
Well, so is there anything else that you want to share, like a last transmission of the medicine you're bringing?
Well, yeah, I would like Laurie to do that. But first, what I'd like to do is just invite you and all of your viewers and listeners to join us in that after Cinderella story 16 hours thing.
Yeah.
Because it's such an important part of just being in your own skin and also being able to relate to a partner. And so we call it the Extraordinary Lovers Experience. It's a weekend. And we actually take you through the experience of, number one, self-love. So we call it the 3 thresholds of experiential love. And so once you go through self-love and you get that experience of what it really feels like to love yourself, and then we transition into the next threshold, which is love of a partner. And then once you've got that experience, then we're going to take you into the experience of love that manifests. What is it you want in your life? And what is it like to have a partner to be able to work with you in manifesting that into your world, really create from nothing, and to be able to move in that space? And so it's called Extraordinary Lovers Experience. It is, like I said, 2 days, and you can go to online.extraordinarylovers.com. And we gave you you have a discount, because if you use August's discount, you'll get $25 off. We just want to say thank you so much. We've already kept the price low. But August, what is your discount code again?
It is, I believe, Atlanta Temple.
That's right.
Well, ATLTEMPLE.
Right.
Not Atlanta spelled out. And I'll actually post that on my Facebook page, Atlanta Tantra Temple, with the link to register and the code.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Wonderful.
So my last words are that, being an extraordinary lover means a commitment to being extraordinary, like pushing past blockages and boundaries and really living extraordinary, because pleasure is your birthright. And so, we've come to dream, many of us have dreamt that we would be in relationship, and in relationship we would be fulfilled, and we would meet our other half, and we would do all these other things. This is, first I'm going to meet myself. And when I meet myself and understand that he's my mirror, everything that I need to see about myself is coming up. And how am I going to communicate that? How am I going to stay open? How am I going to set boundaries that allow for trust? How am I going to do all these things? It's not difficult to learn. And that's the thing, like we've broken it down so that people could learn it, absorb it, and use it immediately. And we have them do exercises in the class that they use immediately. So we hope people join us, because we think couples are an endangered species, and we'd like to get them off the endangered species.
Yay, that's so good. I realize some of my client or people listening might be interested to know, like, the format of how it happens in the training. Can you do we have time to tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. So again, we're going to take you through the 3 thresholds of expressive love. right?
Right.
Self-love, love of a partner,
And
and
manifesting.
and manifesting. And inside of that, it's going to be done on a Zoom call. And so we have, and you know, you get breaks and you get, you know, a lunch break and all of that. We're not going to make you, you know, we're not going to force you.
Well, for the East Coast, it starts at lunchtime, so
Right.
they'll get a dinner break.
Right.
Okay.
So that's the format of it, and it's like I said, it's experiential. So there are quite a few exercises that we'll be leading you through. And in this one, we're working with partners, and so we have another one that's for singles only, and then this one for couples. And so the one that's coming up, that's July 11th and 12th. This will be for couples. So and the price per registration is per couple. So it's, you know, not it's per couple. It's amazing. So that's
wait, hold on. It's the 11th and 12th, not the 10th and 11th.
it's the 11th and 12th of July.
Got it. I have been saying the 10th and 11th. I will correct that. I was wondering why it was Friday and Saturday. Got it. My bad.
No, it's Saturday and Sunday.
Saturday
Got
and
it.
Sunday.
And there will be frequent breaks. People will be able to pee, and they'll also be able
Okay.
to eat.
We've got just a few spots left. So yeah.
So
That's
if people don't want to be publicly seen by the other people, they can still consume the content and have their video off if they're not wanting to be publicly a part of the.
Yes, we've had people do that. We've had people do that.
And also, just so you know, we don't record the calls.
Okay.
It's a live call, and you know, we're not going to hold on to it in any or share it anywhere either. So.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, yay. Thank you so much. And I will see you. I will be in the training. I'm super excited. I just adore the both of you.
Thanks, August.
Love
We
you.
appreciate you so much.
Yeah,
Let's
thank you.
Have
Hippie hand.
extraordinary love.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I
Thank
will
you.
see you on Saturday, not Friday.
That's right.
Right.